Yes. Yes, I'm black, right? So I didn't want it to be a shock to you. So what one event, and my parents are also black. And so what one event in 1968 could have had a profound impact on my parents?
Martin Luther King.
The assassination and murder of Dr. Martin Luther King, right? And so that year, my parents graduated from high school. They fell in love. They went off to college. And so my father goes to my grandfather and he says, I want to do something about the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King. And my grandfather says, great, do it someplace else. So my father leaves and goes off to college and he joins this group called the Black Panthers. Now, I don't know what you know about Black Panthers or what you think you know about Black Panthers, but primarily they were a political action committee of sorts, right? And their prime objective was to get poor people, and poor black people specifically, out of poverty. Now, one of the remnants of the Panther movement is something known as the Federal School Lunch Program. Has anyone ever heard of that? Yep. So you can thank the Panthers for that. But there was also another thing another side or another dimension that made the Panthers notorious, which was they also knew that they had the right to bear arms. And when I look at all of the footage of civil rights movements and all sorts of stuff, at Panther rallies, I never see any water hoses or German shepherds. And I wonder why. Right? And so the Panthers were very active. And then in 1970, my parents got married. In 1970, the most amazing, beautiful thing that could ever happen to my parents happens. I was born. And at that point, my father realized that the revolution was no place for a family and that the retirement plan for revolutionaries sucks. So he left the revolution and got a 9-to-5 square job. And so at this job, he gets a call from God. Now, what happens when you get a call from God? You listen, right? And he answered the call. And so my father became an evangelical, fire and brimstone, Bible-thumping preacher. Hallelujah, yeah!
Wow.
I am my father's son. All right? And so in this presentation, I may get a little bit political. It's not my fault. And I also might feel like I'm preaching to the choir. But the choir needs preaching too, in the words of my father. All right? So we'll go on with this presentation because it looks like it's going to go on its own. So I'm going to show a video clip, and I want you to watch the video clip and think about how this might apply to micro inequities, how this might, what Adlerian processes or terms might we add to talk about this video, right? So I want you to look at it through an Adlerian view as well as looking at what this might mean for micro inequities. All right, so here we go. Now I'm ready for you. Many of you have seen this before, yes? going on in the video?
He wants attention.
He wants attention. What else is happening in the video? What's happening?
He has a goal for his misbehavior.
He has a goal for his misbehavior. All right. What else is happening?
His mom and the dog are ignoring him.
His mom and the dog are ignoring him. Okay. So let's move to the why. So why is he exhibiting this particular set of behaviors?
Yeah, he's gotten attention before.
Because it's worked in the past, right? And because as human beings, we are creatures that scaffold our learning, right? Which basically means that once we've learned something, we build on that platform until we learn other things, right? And so the reason, and it's so funny because a lot of people get confused with his behavior, and they add a moral compass to it. They add that this child is acting bad, or that his behavior is manipulative and he's trying to be negative with his behavior. When in fact, all he is doing is what?
What works.
He's doing what works, right? So he's doing what works. So when will this child change his behavior? When it doesn't work? Is it working now? Is this behavior working now?
We're all still giving him attention.
What's that?
We're all still giving him attention.
Okay, so we're all still giving him attention. I'm not sure that he knows necessarily about our attention.
He may know about the camera, though.
Okay, so he may know about the camera, so I'm sure he's thinking, they're filming me so that people around YouTube and the rest of the world will be able, right? Okay, so he's not thinking that.
So, yes, the camera. Like, so maybe they bring the camera out for special occasions. And
Okay.
then they watch it back. So, like, my nephew, he knows that the camera takes a video and then he watches himself on the camera.
Right, and kids are so into cameras and stuff, right? You pull out a camera, they smile, I mean, they like change. You know, so that could be something that is going on,
Yeah. The
right?
technology is feeding behavior.
The technology is feeding his behavior. What are some other thoughts? Is this behavior working?
Right now it's not, but again, we don't know if they realized that they went to a therapist and they told them that what's happening, so they wanted to film it and say, wow, he's right, it really is. So we don't really know the backstory, but according to what I'm seeing, it's not working.
It is not working. What are some indications to you that this behavior is not working?
Looking for the person so I can fall down on the ground and cry.
So he's seeking out
Oh yeah.
folks. What else?
He's not getting attention.
He's not getting attention. If it worked, what would happen to his behavior?
Well, if it worked, if he was doing that, when it comes to it, it would get worse. It would grow even more.
If it was working, what would happen to his behavior?
It will stop.
It would stop. So when we see someone who is acting out, and they can act out consistently, we know one thing, that they're not reaching their what?
Go.
Their goal. And the evidence that we have is because they keep acting out. Because if they reach their goal, they wouldn't have the need to exhibit this behavior, right? So if his mother went down, hugged him, and picked him up, or gave him the candy or the cookie, that behavior would stop. Right? If that was, in fact, his goal. Right? So all human behavior is goal-directed. And so if you can go to your handouts, I want to talk a little bit about the truths of human beings. So the truths are that human beings can learn, change, and grow. It's right on the inside of your... Yep, it's right here on the inside. So human beings can learn, change, and grow. Who I was at 17 is not who I am today. Thank God. Right? I can adapt to my environment. I can learn new ways of coping with things. So I can learn, change, and grow. Second, people do what they think works even when what? Even when it doesn't work. They do it because they think that it works. Right? All human behavior is goal-directed. Everything that we do is to help us achieve a goal. So if I have we'll come back to the next part, right? And so an attitude is a reaction to a goal. What have you been taught about what an attitude is? What is an attitude? Anyone been accused of having one? What is an attitude?
A preconceived notion.
It's a preconceived notion. Okay.
Like this decision?
It's a decision.
Like decision?
Okay.
Way of reacting.
A way of reacting.
Behavior?
It's a behavior.
A belief.
It's what?
A belief.
It's a belief. Okay.
A mindset.
It's a mindset, maybe. All right. Cool. And I will say that all of your answers are correct, right? So I told you that my parents got married young. So they were sophomores in college when they had me, and or starting their sophomore year when they had me, and so they were in psychology classes and social welfare classes and all this kind of stuff, right? And so we became their guinea pigs for their classes, and so they tried alternative discipline models and stuff like that. So they'd have us stand in the corners holding dictionaries or other kind of amazing freakish facts, freakish ways of disciplining your kids and that kind of stuff. But they'd be stuck in their old ways, how they were raised, right? Because they got spankings as they were growing up. So they were always fighting in between this thing. And so fighting between this new way of doing things and this old way of doing things, they would say really dumb, crazy stuff, right? Like if I had an attitude, my dad would say, "Boy, fix your face." So I'm like, I'm not quite sure what he means. Or my parents would say stuff like, "Boy, go to your room till you learn how to act." So I'd be in my room for a while. Then I'd step out into the hallway. To be or not to be. I spent a lot of time in my room. And, I'm like, who are they? Siskel and Ebert? They don't know anything about acting, right? But that's not what they were talking about. And it took a long time for me to figure out what this attitude thing was that they were talking about. And I'm not sure they knew exactly what they meant either. But then one day I figured it out. So I told you my dad was my pastor. And so on Sunday, we would go to church from 7:30 a.m. to 11:30 p.m. We'd stop at 3 o'clock for chicken, not because we're black, but because chicken is delicious. So we go to church all day on Sunday. Friday night, I asked my dad for the car, and because my dad loves me, what does he say?
Sure.
He says yes. So I get the keys, I'm hanging out with my buds, I fill up the car with gas, I come home before curfew, I give my dad the keys, and he says, "I have what kind of an attitude?"
Good.
A good or a positive attitude, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I say, what about my dad's attitude? Yeah, his is good too, right? So I have a good attitude, he has a good attitude. Sunday comes along, my best friend Dexter calls me at noon and says, "Andre, can you pick me up for the movies?" What do I know about Sunday?
Can't do it.
But I'm 17, I'm invincible, and Jesus is my friend, right? So I go up to my dad and I say, "Dad, can I borrow the car?" And what does my dad say?
No.
Not only does he say no, but he gives me a lecture about how I'm leading people to hell, right? Every negative consequence in my home, the ultimate consequence was that you're going to hell. You didn't make your bed up, you're going to hell. You didn't do the dishes, you're going to hell. Everything was hell, right? And you could either go on your own or they would show you the way, right? And so I would say that my dad, because I was not able to get the car, I would say he had what kind of an attitude? A bad attitude. Consequently, what would he say about my attitude? That I have a bad attitude. Friday night, we were cool. Sunday, we're not cool. What's the difference?